So this is Miss Emily, and she's our composting teacher, and we're going to ask you some questions.
Okay, great.
So how did you get into composting so much?
I started composting a couple years ago because I had a friend tell me about the benefits of composting, which are that it does good things with our food waste. And so even if you don't necessarily waste a lot of food, like you're not eating the food that you buy, even when you chop a zucchini, you have the ends of the zucchini still, or when you peel a carrot, you have the carrot peel. And so instead of throwing those away, I've learned that composting can do good things with that food waste instead of just throwing it away.
Okay. How do you think composting would help the earth?
Composting is great for the earth. And if everyone composted, it would be really great because we could keep food out of our landfills. And when food goes in our landfills, over time it creates a really harmful gas called methane. And methane is one of the gases that causes global warming. And in this country especially, we throw away a lot of food. And so if we could compost that food instead, it would not only reduce the amount of methane in our atmosphere and hopefully help stop global warming from getting any worse than it already is, but it would also replenish our soil with nutrients. So when a plant grows, it uses nutrients to grow, and so the soil needs to have nutrients. And so when we add compost back to our soil, we're adding the nutrients back to the soil, so we're completing that life cycle. So it's really great for our earth to compost.
So if you had another job than composting, what would it be?
Well, my job is more than just composting here. I teach about healthy food and nutrition. And so if I had another job, I would want to just be able to help people live healthier lives by teaching them the kind of foods that their bodies need. So I'm a dietitian, and I would love to work as a dietitian and really help people with their diets.
What would happen if people didn't compost?
Well, a lot of people don't compost, unfortunately, especially around here, because we don't have the city doesn't come pick up compost around here like they would recycling or trash. In some cities, they do pick up compost, and so it's easier for people to compost. But if you want to compost around here, you've got to make your own, which can be kind of messy or time consuming. And so if people don't compost, it goes in the landfill, because when we throw things away, eventually they end up in the landfill. And like I mentioned earlier, that causes some harmful gases. So we want to prevent that.
Okay. So how do you make the food in the compost make nutritious soil?
Well, we don't really do much other than just add the food waste and add browns. So we have a carbon and a nitrogen source, and then nature just really does the rest on its own. It's really cool how it works. So microorganisms will get into the pile, and they eat the food waste, and especially if you have red wiggler worms too, they can help eat that food waste and break it down into its back into just its nutrients. And so with time and heat and microorganisms, the compost itself will break down into soil that you can use to put back into your garden. And so if it's done correctly, it can take anywhere from about 4 to 6 months to create that soil from our food waste. Yeah.
So fortunately, that was our last question, but thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for asking me these questions. I love talking about composting.
Thank you.
Awesome. Hi, so we are now out in the garden, and I will be showing how to compost. In this 5-gallon bucket here, I have some compost or some food waste that we collected from the cafeteria today. This is actually only from the cafeteria kitchen, not even from the students. So if you'll look in here, it's almost halfway full of, we've got some tea bags in there, some ends of lettuce heads, some celery ends, some old broccoli. And so this is some stuff that would have been put in the trash can in the kitchen, but we were able to save it, and now we will be putting it in our compost. And so food waste like this is what we call our greens, and in a compost we need a mixture of greens and browns. And so this is our rotating compost bin. We just got this, and so what you do is you open the latch like this, and if you'll open it up, we've already got some food waste in here from the past couple of days from collecting. 2 days ago we collected from first grade, and then yesterday we collected from second and third, I think. And so I will just be adding the kitchen scraps today. And then we've also got some sweet potato ends down there from our taste test today. But the other thing that you need to add to your compost is browns. And browns are things like leaves or grass clippings or newspaper, any brown paper, even wood chips and things like that. Pretty much all that we have that are browns here at school is old leaves that have fallen, and so I put some in a couple of days ago, and we'll need to put some more in today. And so we can just collect from around here, kind of take what's from on the ground and make sure that our compost is at a good balance of greens and browns, because if it's not, it will begin to smell, and we don't want a stinking compost out here. And hopefully we will be having some people bring some browns from home, because eventually we're going to run out of leaves out here. So I'm just putting about an equal portion of leaves into the compost, and then so the compost to break down into actual soil that we can use in the garden. It needs greens, it needs browns, it does need a little water, and it also needs oxygen. And so the way that a compost gets oxygen is by rotating it. Now, if you've got just a regular compost that maybe you've made out of pallets, then you've got to rotate it by hand, and that can get very tiring after a while. So what's cool about this is that you don't have to rotate it by hand. All you do is take this little lever out, and then it will rotate for you. So there we go. And so you just spin it. And when you spin it, it mixes up all of the waste and also incorporates air into the compost. So it gets that oxygen it needs to keep on growing. Okay, so I'm sure that's mixed up well. I'm gonna put the pin back in to stabilize it, and then that's all you do. So that's how we compost out here in the garden. And eventually, in maybe 4 to 6 months, we will have broken down compost that we'll be able to use in our gardens and help it to grow. So yeah, do y'all have any more questions? Awesome.